Well, we've gone over this in various degrees along the way, but let's take a moment and really zone in on it specifically. Go over here and select Reset, get this back to its full image. And you could keyframe just about anything, and that's the whole point. Once you learn the basics of keyframing, you can really use it in combination with lots of different effects and things to create very seemingly complicated edits that are really just 90% keyframing. Now, if we go up over here into the crop again, why don't we go ahead and keyframe some cropping first that's going to happen in this image. So if we go back to the beginning of the clip over here, you're always going to want to set a keyframe at the beginning. This is basically the status quo before you make any changes of any kind. So this is the crop tool over here. You can come up to the little keyframe right over here, and we're just going to create a keyframe for all four of them because I'm not sure how we're going to crop this moving forward. But now let's say what we want to do is as the video plays, we want to crop this image this way, so this zeroes in just on this character. And let's say right there is where we want the move to start happening. We'll hit stop. Now we're going to want to create another set of keyframes. Now we know that we're going to be cropping in from the right, so we really just have to worry with this right over here. So go ahead and hit keyframe right there to create one. And now go ahead and play forward. And seemingly this is where you'll want the crop to be happening. And then you want him to be solely in his box right about here, let's say, right before this other character's line. So if we go back right before he turns his head, now we simply grab this right side of the image and pull it to the left, and we've cropped him into his box. Now you see over to the right that slider has moved along with it. That has automatically created a new keyframe here with this parameter, and now if we scrub over to the left, you'll see that keyframe has now animated the crop from right to left across the screen as it plays. So now that we've keyframed that over to the left, I want to now add a second thing happening. So now what we want to do is as the crop keyframe kicks in, I want this image to sliding over to the right so that by the end of the clip, he's over here to the right looking off screen. So go ahead and go back to the beginning over here. And if you right click on your clip and go to show video animation, up over here in the trim section, click on this guy, it'll say all. If you wanted to just set that to right, that would work as well because that's all we're concerning ourselves. It'll show you exactly where the keyframe starts for that crop move. So now we can come up over here and put a keyframe into the transform section, which is up over here. You click the one on the top there, and then as you move this over to the right, you'll see that's where the keyframe ends for the trimming. So that's where we want this image to have landed onto the right. So we can either select it up over here in the inspector, move that over to the right, or Command Z, we can come over here, select over here, make sure crop isn't selected, because if you grab and drag that, it'll drag the actual cropping, but rather make sure transform is selected here. And then you can drag and drop this guy over as well, and that also does the same trick. Now if we play from the beginning again, you'll see that's the beginnings of a stylization of some kind of a camera move. Now one thing I'll say right over here off the bat is if you right click on any of these, you'll see it's automatically set to smooth. This is the bane of a lot of people's existence. Generally 99.9% of the times you're always going to want to change that to linear. And if you go down the line, you'll see that also at the other end, that also needs to change to linear. Apple probably gets a lot of requests to change that default, and for some reason they just never have. So that's keyframing in a nutshell. You see we basically just keyframe two separate parameters, a crop and a move, and we've created a slightly stylistic kind of thing over here. Now if we wanted to create another layer with this same clip over it and do the same thing with the character on the right so that these two images were moving in the opposite directions, that might be something we could try. But that's for a different tutorial. Now in order to explore keyframing just a little bit more and show you the great functionality of how you can combine different keyframings in different ways, we're going to take a look at the video animator and at the audio animator. And for this particular lesson, we're actually going to go off media. So you're not going to be able to follow along on your own computer, but just pay attention.